Hello, welcome to the channel. My name's CavemanAston, and today I'm going to be working on something that a friend of mine at work has asked me to do for him. He has a Vespa, and this is part of the clutch mechanism. So this plate is at the far end of the stack, and I believe he said it was made of cork, but there's a series of sections that all then just get pushed together. And as the pressure is applied, it then causes the motor to then engage through all of the gear train until the rear wheel is actually driven. Part of the problem with this plate is it needs to be really accurately smooth so that it then lines up with the rest of the plates. Because this is an import part, because you can't get hold of original parts anymore, he's asked if I can machine it down. So basically I'm going to do, hopefully, a quick video just how I line this up on the lathe with my dial test indicator, and then just skimming the surface, try and get it really nice and smooth, but taking the minimal amount of material off. So basically going to stick it on the lathe, use the dial test indicator on just one of the surfaces on here, because the other side isn't actually part of the friction mechanism. Get it as close to perfectly flat as I can, and then it's going to be a case of skimming it across with a nice cutting tool, and hopefully leaving a very nice smooth finish. So here we are with an up close of the actual part. So you can see there, and then got the shaft through the middle which helps it line up. And what happens is on apparently these sections here there's a series of springs that help either push or pull the mechanism apart, and then when you pull the gear lever or the clutch lever to change gear, it then causes the plates to separate. So around on this surface here you still can't see it overly well, but on it there's some points where there's some sort of scale or like a stamp mark left in it slightly. So basically it's just going to be a case of skimming over that to get rid of it. So hopefully it should end up almost mirror finish. So let's give it a try. So first step first is actually taking out the projects that I'm currently working on. Luckily the machining operation I've been doing here on this particular bit is finished, so it's going to come out anyway. That hopefully is going to be in the next video. And then having a bit of a clear up of the lathe itself. Oh wow, I've made a lot of mess in there. Although technically I don't need to get this level, what I don't want to do is, as I'm machining in, is to hit any of these sort of legs that come out. So I want to get it as close to flat in this direction as I can before I do anything else. So what I'm using is the test indicator. I'm going to find the highest point and the lowest point, and then just try and bring it in each direction, and do so with the 4 jaws, and then just bring it into tolerance. I'll spin it around till I reach the far extreme. Just right there, so that's actually the lowest because it was going backwards. So what I need to do is I need to loosen this, loosen this off and tighten this one to push it up just a fraction. So now the next step is then try and get this face in. I may not have done this in the right order, we're about to find out. Just here we've got the lowest point. So I'm going to just loosen the jaws off a fraction, because I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And let's see if I can push this out a bit. There's our problem, it's moving. Oh, that's silly of me, isn't it? Is there a good way to do this, do you reckon? So that's a bit of a high spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a soft mallet thing and just tap that ever so gently. Trust me, need to wait until I'm almost halfway through with trying to get something lined up to realise that I've got a bunch of parallels I can stick behind to space it off to allow me to tighten it up, hopefully flat. So let's try that and see what happens. And now we have to dial it all in again. So classic. Do those. And then do this one and do this one to drop out. In theory, I'll show you how. Okay, so I spent some time with the dial test indicator, gentle taps to try and get it into alignment, and between all of that I've managed to get it to the point where it's about 0.1, 0.15 mil high point to low point. I don't know how much of that's going to be just from like the scale and the unevenness within it, or if it's just the fact that the disc isn't perfectly parallel to the bar that runs through the middle of it. So what I'm doing here now is that's as close as I can get it, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cutting tool that I've got, quite a sharp point tool, so it should leave a nice finish. I'm just winding it in to the point where I can spin it, and it's just about level where the shoulder bits up here start to curve, or just a bit before that. So that means what I can do is I can then set my dial to 0, so I know as I approach it I can stop exactly at the 0 mark. So I'm going to wind it out, I'm going to turn the lathe on, spin it up, and then just gradually move in until I first touch off, do a pass, and then check if it's covered the entire disc. If not, move it in a fraction more, and what I'll probably do is I'll use the compound just very slightly to move it in and take another pass. So let's get on with that. Okay, so I have not been having a good time with this. It wasn't until I was part way through I realised I'm actually putting some really deep score marks into it because I was supporting it on that spindle in the middle and the outer edge was wobbling. So after I realised that, I realised that actually I can just about clamp the outer edge of the disc, which is what I've set up now using the outer edge version of the clamping on the 4-jaw chuck. I've centred it up, and because none of the tools I can get in particularly close on all of the sides at once without something catching on a spinning bit of metal, I've decided to use the parting tool or grooving tool, and I'm going to very gently just go across the face of it, and hopefully that's going to skim just enough to finish it off nice and smooth, and hopefully that will be job done. So as you can see, that's about as close as I can get it. So there's going to be like a mil or two at the outer edge that's not going to quite be cut. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so it's a new day. I've had a bit of a chance to sit and think about how best to do it. I've used some parallels that I normally use on my milling machine to place behind the jaws of the chuck. So I would space it to the point where it's just a fraction sitting proud of these on the jaws. So it means that I've just that fraction closer to the outside edge, which means I can get my tooling closer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to repeat the process going across, and hopefully this will actually finish it off really nice and smooth. So let's get going. Let's get going. Okay, last thing I've got to try is I'm still using the parting off tool, but this time using it at a very slight angle because the corner on the parting off tool is exceptionally sharp and pointy. So it means there's a really low tool pressure, which means it should cut into this really nice and easily. So I've already done one pass and it's definitely cleaning it up a lot nicer. So I'll just do a couple more passes, try and get rid of some of the deeper scratches, give it a hit with some sandpaper, and the job should be good. So here is the final result. It looks okay. I'm not sure what Andy will think, but hopefully it's okay. There are a few score marks around the outside edge from where I've machined it and it started vibrating. I could take them out, but it's going to start making this really thin. It's about two and a bit mil thick at the moment. I know when I first measured it was about 2.5 mil. I had taken one very slight skim pass over that already, but I didn't want to take it much thinner just in case it starts risking the structure integrity. But other than those few marks, it's all looking pretty consistent. I've taken some sandpaper around it just to give it a nice sort of polish up. So hopefully it'll work nice straight off the bat. And if not, hopefully it'll bed in pretty quick, because I know some stuff where it has like a bed-in period, certainly with brakes, they kind of have to match up with the other parts in the assembly. So hopefully I don't end up owing him a brand new one, and maybe if I do, maybe he'll let me loose on that one as well. Now I hopefully know what I'm doing. Main issue was the fact that I was trying to machine while holding onto this central pin here, rather than trying to clamp onto the outside. So what was happening is, I was clamped onto here, machining this, and tool pressure was causing the whole thing to wobble. So I was getting some really deep, really aggressive lines cutting into this as it shook. So once I worked out I need to clamp on the outside edge, it was a lot better. Once I realised that I could actually space it out so it's almost level with the front jaws of the chuck, almost perfect, and I just needed a really sharp tool just to keep that tool pressure down. And it all seemed to work okay. So hopefully you guys have learned something from my awful mistakes. So please do consider subscribing. Button's just down there somewhere. And I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!